read, take the roll, please?
Yes, President Wasby. Director Eccles?
Present.
Director Corbett?
Present.
Director Rosario?
Here.
Director Coffey?
Present.
Director San Juan?
Here.
And President Wasby.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item is the Pledge of Allegiance. Director Rosario, will you lead us? And Director Eccles, will you read the land acknowledgement, please?
Sure. The East Bay Regional Park District's headquarters is located within Huichin territory on the unceded lands of the Ohlone Chochenyo speaking peoples who have continuously lived upon this land since time immemorial. The lands now encompassed within the boundaries of the East Bay Regional Park District are the ancestral territory of the Ohlone, Bay Miwok, and Delta Yukon. Today's Ohlone, Bay Miwok, and Delta Yukon people are thriving, vital members of the Greater Bay Area community. They remain intrinsically connected to the land they have stewarded since time immemorial. So please join us in recognizing and honoring this land and their ancestors, elders, descendants, and all other members of their communities.
Thank you. Now we'll move to the approval of the agenda. Yes.
If I may, I neglected to call General Manager and General Counsel during the roll call.
Present. Also present.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. We're all here. Next item is approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve? So moved. Thank you. Moved by Member Rosario,
Second.
seconded by Member Eccles. All in favor, roll call vote, please.
Yes,
Madam Clerk.
President Wasby. Director Eccles?
Aye.
Director Corbett?
Aye.
Director Rosario?
Aye.
Director Coffey? Director San Juan?
Yes.
And President Wasby.
Aye. Thank you. We'll now move to public comments. Madam Clerk, can you explain to the folks in the public and on via Zoom how they can respond and speak to us?
Yes, President Wasby. You may respond, public comments may be submitted in one of three ways: via email to publiccomment@ebparks.org, via voicemail at 510-544-2016, leaving a message which will be transcribed and given to the board and made a part of the public record, or simply by joining the meeting via the Zoom link, which is listed on the agenda posted on the district's website, and raising your hand when you are ready to speak. The submission of public comments was noticed on the agenda and in the board packet posted on the district's website, June 2nd, 2023. All emails received prior to the deadline on Monday, June 5th, have been distributed to the board and executive team. Any emails that have come in after this date, which was yesterday, will be organized and given to the board after this meeting.
All right, thank you. So I see we have a lot of members of the public here and via Zoom. So let's move to public comments by members of the public that are here in attendance.
Yes, President Wasby, and members of the public, each of you have 3 minutes. And one of the things that I'm going to do going forward is that I'm going to stop my video. When you see my face pop up, that means you have 30 seconds. So we're going to start with Renee Patterson. You have 3 minutes, ma'am.
Thank you. Good afternoon, members of the board, President Wasby. My name is Renee Patterson. I'm an admin analyst 2 here at Peralta Oaks on the 3rd floor. And I'm just here to make a reminder that we are still waiting for any kind of PERB activity. PERBs is the State of California Public Employee Relations Board. APSME filed an unfair practice charge on August 26, 2022 for bad faith bargaining, interference, direct dealing, and unilateral implementation. So I've made my reminder to you as I do every board meeting, and I will continue to do until there's something resolved with this issue. So I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Renee.
Thank you, Renee. Our next speaker, and these are in no particular order, they're just the order that were given to me, is Kat Wellman. You have 3 minutes, ma'am.
Good afternoon. My name is Kat Wellman. I am chair of a coalition called Save Lake Chabot Road, which is comprised of over 1,700 people who oppose the East Bay Mud Quarry Site project. A number of us are here to, 1, tell you about the East Bay Mud Quarry project, 2, explain why the project is a threat to Lake Chabot Park and the Fairmont Ridge, and 3, to ask the board to direct staff to work with our coalition in exploring potential options for the Park District to purchase the quarry site in partnership with other entities. These could be brought back to the board for consideration. So what is the quarry project? The quarry site is approximately 60 acres located off of Lake Chabot Road, adjacent to Fairmont Ridge and across from Lake Chabot Park. East Bay Mud paid $150,000 for a 3-year option to buy the land for $4.2 million. That option expires in October. East Bay Mud wants to take trench soil extracted from pipeline replacement in its entire jurisdiction of both Alameda and Contra Costa County. And that would be equivalent to 100 million cubic feet, and dump it on this quarry site for the next 40 to 80 years. The project is a threat to the Park District because it will destroy the beautiful serenity of Lake Chabot Park and the Fairmont Ridge. The 60 acres will turn into an active construction site for our entire lifetime and beyond. Constant noise, dust from earth-moving equipment will be heard and felt by park users. It will ruin the open space viewshed that can now be seen from the park. The estimated 60 to 100 heavy dump trucks that will go 5 days a week on Lake Chabot Road will make it dangerous for drivers and bicyclists trying to get to the park. It will disturb and possibly destroy the fragile ecosystem of Fairmont Ridge, which is home to several species of endangered plants and animals, and Lake Chabot Park, which is home to the bald eagles. We are asking the board to direct staff to work with our coalition in exploring potential options for the Park District to purchase the quarry site in partnership with other entities. Our goal is for the land to remain beautiful open space that can be turned into parkland used for hiking trails, as well as educational and healing opportunities. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Tim Ballas. You have 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you. My name is Tim Ballas. I'm a 30-year resident of San Leandro. I'm also a commercial real estate executive, land manager, and I've worked with a number of heavy equipment operators and land managers over my career. I do live in close proximity to the quarry, and it would have a direct impact on my housing value, my neighbors' housing values. There are 3,000 people that live in Bay Vista, and this particular site is wholly unsuitable to coexist with a construction site, which this would basically be for the next 40 to 80 years by East Bay Mud's description and estimates. 40 to 80 years is quite a range of time. So we've presented options to East Bay Mud's board that they've asked us for options, and we actually know what we're talking about in this area since a number of us on the coalition work with heavy equipment and real estate land management. So we've presented them with a few options, including trenchless method of pipeline replacement. This is utilized by other water districts in the US on a very large scale successfully. Big cities like Houston and Dallas and Detroit utilize the trenchless method of pipeline replacement rather than pulling out trench soil, addressing it at the source, and not creating this huge need for public expenditure to go buy an abandoned quarry for the sole purpose of disposing trench soil. It's really a bad idea. Leaving aside for the moment the number of people that are affected because of the site, but just the sustainability aspects of putting that many dump trucks on the road on an already unstable road and dumping soil in the ground for a period of 40 to 80 years is just wholly a bad idea. So we've introduced this technology option. They're considering it. They've actually had a pilot project to utilize trenchless method, and they're considering it. So our ask is to consider this notion of acquiring the land, which we view would be a natural extension of the existing regional parks district and solve a big problem. So thanks for the time.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Leah Tice. Hope I pronounced your name. Tice, okay.
Hi, my name is Leah Ticey, and I just want to thank you for having us here today. And thank you for the work that you do. Our regional parks are spectacular and such a huge benefit to living in the Bay Area. And I think we auspiciously put Lake Chabot Park on your agenda today. And I will just reiterate what Tim and Kat just said. And I won't go through all the details again that you heard, but Lake Chabot Park and all the regional parks are so important to us, and in our very stressful lives, we need those parks a lot. And I live in Bay Vista as well, so it not only affects my access to the park and my enjoyment of the park, but also to just my house. And I've spent a lot of time in Lake Chabot Park, and it's a remarkably wonderful mix of people that are there, and it's very heavily used. And I know it means a lot to so many people, not just in Castro Valley and San Leandro, but the whole Bay Area. It's a gem. And so to see it blighted would be heartbreaking for a lot of people, not just us that are so close to it. So please consider acquiring this land. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Frank Mellon.
Thank you very much. It's good to see you all. I actually had something a little different that I'm going to move into, but I thought you all ought to be aware. My successor on the East Bay Mud Board, April Chan, has united with these folks in opposing the quarry project. And the board is split 3-3. And frankly, April's been fighting very hard to have East Bay Mud staff recognize the damage they're doing to both Castro Valley and San Leandro. So I urge you to listen very carefully to these folks as they come to you. But what did I really come here for? I came here for June 3rd and June 4th, this past weekend. On June 3rd, there was a veterans golf tournament, American Legion and VFW at Redwood Canyon Golf Course. Yes, they opened it up, 18 holes, and I want you all to know Touchstone did an incredible job from where it was 2 months ago. And we had 80 some odd golfers, a lot of veterans out there, and they had just a bodaciously great time. In fact, E.E. Cummings, the great poet, had a term for the kind of day it was, vainglorious. But that having been said, on June 4th, there was, whoops, got it upside down, sorry, the Lake Chabot Trail Challenge, the 39th year. And I got to tell you, it was also a vainglorious day. We had almost 300 some odd folks out there running. And this banner is our gift of thank you to you all, the East Bay Regional Parks District, for giving us the opportunity yet again. And I want you to know it was a beautiful, unlike last year where it rained hammer handles and pitchforks, it was a wonderful day and everybody had a grand time. And this is for you as a thank you and a compliment to your Rangers for the fine job they did. So who do I give this to?
Thank you. Thank you very, very much, Frank. We truly appreciate it. Frank, is that depicting the otter that lives at Lake Chabot, or the otters?
So what happens is every year for our t-shirts and for our signs, we have a different critter. And when we heard, to the dismay of some fishermen, that there were otters back in Lake Chabot, we seized the opportunity before anybody else did. And so we put an honor. Last year, it was the golden trout. So we're already talking about next year's. So this is only good for 1 year. Oh, and thank you, Dennis, for your help for having the banner on the entranceway, clearing it with the superintendent. That was wonderful. A lot of people, it helped people see where they're going because of all the stuff that had happened with the park. So thank you.
Great collaboration. Thank you very much.
Thank you again, folks. You have a
You bet.
wonderful day.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Millen. Ann, is it Callwood? Kaywood. You have 3 minutes, ma'am. Thank you.
Well, I hate following that. So my name is Ann Kaywood. I have been a resident of San Leandro for over 40 years. Our community opposes the East Bay Mud Regional Quarry project because it will deposit the 3.6 million cubic yards of soil in an environmentally fragile site and will also create a health hazard, dust clouds, and noise pollution at both Lake Chabot and Fairmont Ridge East Bay Regional Parks. I think it will also probably scare away the beautiful bald eagles, and I saw one there a few weeks ago, so it's magnificent to see that. East Bay Mud's plan to run 26,000 dump trucks and hydro slurry trucks a year will also ruin Lake Chabot Road, which is still not entirely open due to storm damage this past winter. East Bay Mud also plans to include the removal of 550 trees at the quarry site with the ensuing erosion and destruction of habitat that will cause. Their park restoration plan only includes replacement of 90 trees. 45 of these are Valley Oak, which do not even grow in our area. Consequently, we ask the board to direct the Park District staff to work with our coalition to consider the potential options to purchase the site in partnership with other entities to preserve critical habitat for plants and wildlife and protect the Park District's beautiful open spaces. We have been approached by Brenda Salgado and the Moons Rising Women's Circle, an Indigenous women-led group, which is inclusive of all backgrounds. They are working to create the Napantla Land Trust and are consulting with Cassandra Ferreira, a leader in facilitating complex community land stewardship projects, the Center for Ethical Land Transition, and the Sustainable Economies Law Center. Their vision is to reconnect others to a deeper relationship with the land by creating regeneration of native plants, soil, and wildlife, including serpentine soil species recovery, a community resilience and sustainability hub, inclusive racial healing and mindfulness retreats, medicinal plant, rain, and vegetable gardens, and youth and community outreach programs on the wonders of the natural world, conservation, history, culture, geology, all of this land. We would love the opportunity to work in partnership with East Bay Regional Parks to develop this vision and ensure this land and its resources are preserved for and enjoyed by future generations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have Tonde Smith. You have 3 minutes, ma'am.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. I am a resident of Bale Vista. I live within 100 feet of the area that East Bay Mud plans to deposit soil. I bought this house 20 years ago with it was the cows on the hills. It was East Bay Regional Park District park land that I look out on. And that was really the reason. That's really the reason that I bought the house. It was so beautiful. It was so peaceful. It was so quaint. So I appreciate what's been done at East Bay Regional Park District. I can also say that when I get my property tax bill, it's that line for East Bay Regional Park District is the line that I don't mind paying. I'm like, yes, I want to support the district. I use the trails. I love the park, and I want it to stay really beautiful. I am concerned about a couple things with the project for the East Bay Mud. One is that I'm really worried and concerned about what's going to happen to the wildlife that's there. I'm particularly concerned about the rodents that are going to be scurrying around trying to find a new place to live. And I'm afraid that's going to be my house and my neighbor's house, literally 100 feet away from where the thing is happening. I'm so proud to work with these people because everybody has such really good skills and talents, a tremendous skill set. The part that I have played a large role in is coordinating the petition drives. Those 1,700 people that we talk about are signatures that we've been able to gather. And two of the main places that we've gathered those signatures is at the marina and at Fairmont Ridge. And I have not come in contact with neither the team have not come in contact with a single soul who says, oh yes, that's a wonderful idea. People who use that park, use that ridge and the surrounding areas, they really like it the way it is. And we appreciate what you've done to preserve it. I noticed that in the beginning when as this meeting was starting, we made reference to the Indigenous people who have been in this area. And I stand with the rest of the team. We want the place to be able to be lived on and preserved in conjunction with other, like the Indigenous groups. And we want this body, we want you all to really work with us and work with those groups to try to preserve that land so that it does not, is not an East Bay mud pause. We want that project to be terminated, and we want you to help us do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Brian LeBeau, or Lebo.
Thank you. That was perfect. Both ways.
Thank you.
Your agency owns the south portion of the Fairmont Ridge near Lake Chabot. The north portion of Fairmont Ridge is private property. If you want to go to the Fairmont Ridge, you pull into the staging area off of Fairmont Drive and you start walking up the paved trail. There is a line of beautiful, wonderful eucalyptus trees populating the ridge. On the other side, you can look down into the bay. There's owls in those trees for what that's worth, and it's worth a lot to us. You walk up about 3/4 of a mile to the radio tower, and at that point it's fenced off and the slope starts going downward. There's about 550 trees on the other side of that radio tower. East Bay Mud proposes to buy that land and tear down those trees, replace them with about 50 non-native trees. So that site is the abandoned quarry site. After 35 years of lying fallow, it's basically been reclaimed by nature. We have a ton of photographs from different vantage points on the trails along Lake Chabot that show that the quarry site now looks like any other hillside near Lake Chabot Road. It's beautiful. It doesn't need to be refurbished, reformed, or renovated. Anyway, as you've heard, East Bay Mud wants to dig up that north side of the Fairmont Ridge for the next 40 to 80 years. And we're suggesting that you look into trying to purchase that property and unify the two parts of the Fairmont Ridge. Your council will likely tell you that right now, one of you can make a motion to refer this to district staff, and then district staff can work with our coalition in learning about the potential methods of purchasing that property alone or with the other entities that have been described. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.
Okay, President Waspy, we do not have any more members of the public in the room that are interested in commenting on an item that's not on the agenda, but I would like to acknowledge that we did receive emails from Larry Edelson, Stephen Auerbach, Richard Goffrey, Margaret, I think that's Howitz, and Paul Merrick. We do have Mr. Wairigi on the Zoom and Mr. Kelly Abreu. So we can go to that.
Okay, if I might, I'd like to address
Sure,
Mr.
thank
LeBeau's comment before we get to that. Mr. LeBeau, thank you for your comments. The idea of that one board member can make a motion right now based on the Brown Act, public comments at a public meeting like this. We hear them, we listen to you. It's not agendized, so we can't take any action. I personally are very thankful that you were here. I tend to agree with you 100%. And I will refer this to staff that we should look into it. I think it's the least we can do. Look into this, keep aware, work with your committee. And we also have a liaison committee with East Bay Mud, the East Bay Regional Park District, East Bay Mud Liaison Committee, which meets often. And I think this would be an excellent item to bring up with them. So we'll keep you posted on this and you keep us informed. And thank you very much for being here. Oh, pardon me, Member Corbett.
Yes, thank you very much. I agree with what our chair has just said, and thank you very much for taking the time to come speak to us. You've been here before too, some of you, to tell us about your thoughts and concerns about that area. And it is a beautiful area, and really appreciate the fact that you are putting together the information and the neighbors together to work on this. In fact, people have not only just been walking around the Vail Vista area to talk to folks about it, but other neighborhoods as well. I grew up in the Vail Vista neighborhood, but I don't live there now. And people have come to other neighborhoods to talk about this. So thank you for your interest. It is extremely important, and we'll be, we'll continue to listen to what you have to say. And as our chair said, having a meeting to have some more discussion is important. So far, it looks like not the Park District, but the East Bay Mud doesn't look like they're planning to go forward at this point, but I guess we'll have to keep an eye on that. So thank you for coming to talk to us about this. And as you know, we are interested in what you have to say. Thank you.
Mr. Wyrigi, you have 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, members of the board. William Uregi, Mission Peak Conservancy. I'm calling in because I'm intrigued by a recent occurrence at the Pickering Gate, which is a gate that is historically used by people to enter Vargas Plateau. And we had a recent situation where a park employee effectively threatened a member of the public with either arrest and or a fine for crossing the gate. Now the gate is marked no public access, but again, historically the neighborhood has used it. In fact, approximately a year ago, the Park District put up a 12-foot cyclone fence backed with barbed wire in an attempt to block access to that gate. And that barbed wire and cyclone prison fencing was removed shortly thereafter due to numerous complaints from the neighborhood stating that this gate had been used and they wanted continued access to it. Now, Vargas Plateau is a unique park in the system in that it only has 25 slots in the staging area up on the top of the mountain. Other access to that park is from the Morrison Canyon Gate and or the Pickering Gate, which are both at the bottom of the park next to the neighborhood. The Pickering Gate, if you don't use it, you have to walk approximately another mile to get to the Morrison Canyon Gate. So Mission Peak Conservancy, we're all about equitable access to our regional parks. We support the Park District. We want to maintain access. We want to maintain equitable access so that everybody can access our parks. Parking is an issue. Park access is an issue. You've all heard about Mission Peak. You also have heard about issues of parking at Coyote Hills. And you've probably heard about issues of parking at Vargas Plateau. So the Pickering Gate would give us access to approximately 30 parking spaces next to Canyon Heights. We need to negotiate, and this is we being East Bay Regional Park District, Mission Peak Conservancy, City of Fremont Community Services Department, City of Fremont Transportation Department. We need to negotiate and allow access to the Pickering Gate so that people do not have to park down at the other end at the Morrison Canyon Gate and basically create conflict with the neighbors. And there is conflict with the neighbors because of people parking in front of their houses. So we want to minimize that. We want to minimize that by providing more parking. Now, the Park District, you just heard that, people want to buy a quarry, and that's great. My recommendation is that you buy the Hartkoff property. Bill Hartkoff has offered it to the Park District. Alameda County Water District has offered 5 acres to the Park District. San Francisco Public Utilities Commission has offered 10 acres to the Park District. That would give you 97 acres of land, most of it ridgeline, therefore you can't park cars on ridgeline, but At the bottom, there is quite a bit of space that would be available for parking. And we need more parking for our regional parks, both outside the parks and inside the parks. Whether it's Mission Peak, we need more parking there. Coyote Hills, we need more parking outside the park. Vargas Plateau, we need more parking either inside the park up on top or down at the bottom, or both. So anything that you can do would be appreciated. And I mean that anything that you can do to facilitate additional parking and additional access would be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Kelly Abreu, you have 3 minutes.
Hello. At a lot of these parks, for example, Lake Chabot and Anthony Chabot Regional Parks, they rely on roads for access. Well, fine, I'll put on my video here. They rely on roads for access, and the Redwood Road, for example, is under the care and management of the Public Works Agency of Alameda County. At mile marker 8.15, 5 months ago, the Board of Supervisors today found that there's a need to continue the action required by the emergency due to a recent and unexpected failures of several roadways, including this one at mile marker 8.15 Redwood Road, a road failure and large slip out. The road basically disappeared, and the county is working on getting it fixed. Likewise, one of the major roadways to access Vargas Plateau Regional Park is called Vargas Road. And at 41500 Vargas Road, the same report today reports that the Alameda County Public Works Agency has found there was a road and culvert failure there. And that's right there, you know, on the way to Vargas Plateau. And the county is going to work on fixing that. But when it comes to the city of Fremont on Morrison Canyon Trail, it's no longer a road, it's a trail, by the way, because cars were prohibited there. That Morrison Canyon Trail was closed 5 months ago. The city doesn't have any, hasn't taken any, there's no estimate for the repair cost. The bottom of the road, as of right now, had some parking spaces, which the city is trying to outlaw parking down there at the bottom of the road, right near the Morrison Canyon Gate. The Pickering Gate, which was just mentioned, has 30 city-owned parking spaces next to a city-owned dirt lot. And those 30 street parking spaces, paved parking spaces, are prohibited, are no stopping. And that affects both the park visitors at Vargas Plateau. It also affects the parents and students at Vallejo Mill Elementary School, people who like to pick up and park their cars, pick up and drop off their elementary school students. So all of this, and in fact, the city of Fremont doesn't take into account the needs or the local park visitors. It is only talking to residents who live within a couple of 100 feet of the Pickering Gate. So it doesn't really, the city is not thinking about talking to the larger community. It's only talking to the locals. Thanks.
Thank you. Last speaker is Stephen Auerbach. You have 3 minutes, sir.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you for your time. My name is Steve Auerbach. I live in El Cerrito. I walk every day at the Albany Bowl, parts of which are in the East Bay Regional Park. My subject is poison hemlock, the hazards of poison hemlock growing at the Albany Bowl. I've sent 2 annotated photographs to the board via the clerk. I probably don't have those available, but when you get a chance, please take a look at them. Poison hemlock is attractive and highly poisonous, and it's growing prolifically in some sections of the bulb, including areas adjacent to frequently used walking paths. The first photograph I sent shows a person on a trail of the bulb walking between poison hemlock bushes on either side, some of which are greater than 8 feet tall. Many plants have leaves just a few feet above the ground. They're perfect for a small child to pick and ingest. All portions of the plant are poisonous. The Wikipedia article on poison hemlock states that Conium maculatum, that's the scientific name of the plant, is known for being extremely poisonous. With its high potency, this is according to Wikipedia, it's been confirmed in other online sources, ingestion of seemingly small doses can result in respiratory collapse and death. The toxin in poison hemlock is called conine. For an adult, the ingestion of more than 1/10 of a gram of conine, which is about 6 to 8 fresh leaves or smaller dose of the seeds or roots, can be fatal to an adult. So narcotic-like effects can be observed as soon as 30 minutes after ingestion of the green matter, leaf matter. Victims fall asleep and then they die in a few hours. My main concern is that small children will ingest portions of the plant without observation by their parents, or that their parents may just see this happen but are not aware of the danger. And this danger that I've just pointed out is illustrated by my second photograph, which I took a few days ago, shows a bouquet attached to a bicycle. It was collected by a father. The father's 2-year-old child was in a seat at the back of the bike. The father thought the plant was clover. He had no idea it was very poisonous. So what can you do? You can't eradicate it. There's too much of it. But if you do nothing, there could be a tragedy. And I suggest that the board has a duty to deal with this issue. What can you do? Well, you can cut down and remove those plants that are along hiking trails. There may be hazards to the workers, but they need to, plants near hiking trails need to be taken down. You can also post prominent warning signs. And I think you have a duty to do this, and I thank you for the opportunity to speak to you about this, what I consider to be a substantial hazard. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
The
you.
last speaker. Just wanted to acknowledge that Mr. Auerbach did send us this information. You guys have it in your packet, which is on the dais.
All right, thank you very much. And that concludes the public comments. Anyone else in the public like to speak? Okay, we'll move right along. We have no announcements at this point. So we'll move to the consent calendar. The consent calendar contains 13 items. Madam Clerk, has anybody asked to pull any items for consideration or have any questions on any items?
So there were questions, Director Rosario. Did you have your questions answered? We have one member of the public that wants to comment on D1J.
Pardon me, what item was that again?
A D1J. Miller Knox.
Okay, great. Item J is the authorization to apply for federal grant funds from the Recreational Trails Program for the Keller Beach Public Access Project in the amount of up to $900,000 at the Miller Knox Regional Shoreline. So Bruce, is that you? Welcome. It's nice to see you again.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here and see you all live post-COVID. For the record, my name is Bruce Byard. I'm the chair of TRAC, Trails for Richmond Action Committee. TRAC certainly supports the proposed short trail from Keller Beach to the northern end of the lagoon area. However, it falls far short of the district's commitment to complete a trail along the shoreline of Miller Knox between Ferry Point and Keller Beach. I believe you have 3 handouts in front of you. Do you, please? Looking like this. The first one is a recommendation from the Miller Knox LUPA. Says remove the abandoned railroad tracks within district jurisdiction and develop a section of the San Francisco Bay Trail between Keller Beach and Ferry Point. This recommendation is a project approved by voters for the district's Measure CC in 2004 and assumes the district will successfully resolve the current impediment to remove the railroad track. This Measure CC line item was a key reason that TRAC and Richmond Bay Trail Network worked so hard to secure the votes for passage of Measure CC. The rendering, the next page, illustrates how this project would transform the derelict mile-long western shore of Miller Knox into a recreational showcase with spectacular vistas from a shoreline bay trail linking Keller Beach and Ferry Point. The district was enthusiastic about this, and in 2009, the board appropriated $28K to enable design, development, environmental documentation, and permitting processes to begin to make the project closer to being bid ready. And in 2010, the board appropriated the entire 1.2 million of Measure CC capital funds for improvements to Miller Knox, including removal of the tracks, fencing, and regrading of the railroad right-of-way to provide public access to the park, to the bay and Keller Beach. I recognize that all this was before any of you were on the board or the management here was hired by the district. So institutional memory is kind of lost. Bob Lane, Bob Doyle, I'm sure Eugene Siri, Whitney Dodson, Ted Radke, and Beverly Lane were all enthusiastic supporters of this project. Referring to the last page, BNSF threw a monkey wrench into carrying out the project by asserting that they had a right to use the shoreline land owned by the district. However, in 2019, the California Superior Court ruled that the railroad had no such rights, and settlement negotiations were to include a trail easement or the fee title or an easement of 150 yards still owned by the railroad. This is shown on the last page of the handouts as a crosshatched red area. So referring to that last page, that 150 yards was still owned by the railroad. The current Miller Knox access project covers the white and gray crosshatched area between Keller Beach and the northern end of the lagoon area. However, it does not include the trail, promised trail from Ferry Point, rolling the rest of the shoreline. So even if the district has not been able to acquire this 150 yards of red hash land from the railroad, it would be relatively simple to bypass around that, bringing the trail from Ferry Point around that 150 yard stretch and then back to the trail, current trail proposed to go on to Keller Beach. So to sum up, we're approaching 19 years after passage of Measure CC by the board and 3 years since the court ruled favorably for the district and against the railroad. Yet the shoreline of Miller Knox is still derelict. So track requests that suggest there's time, maybe past time, to move forward and complete the long promised shoreline bay trail along the shoreline of a regional park between Ferry Point and Keller Beach. So thank you very much for considering that. I hope you can proceed with this project. Do you have any questions?
Thank you very much, Bruce. Any questions? I agree. Hopefully some in the future, can we get a report on what the status of that is? I do think it is a grand promenade. And hopefully, I know it's complicated, but if we can follow up on that, I'd appreciate it. That's it. All right. So we've talked about the consent calendar. Any members of the public have anything else on the consent calendar? Hearing none, do I have a motion to accept the consent calendar? Moved by member Corbett.
So moved.
Seconded by member San Juan. Thank you. If there's no further discussion, Madam Clerk, will you take a roll call vote?
Yes, President Waspy. Director Eccles?
Aye.
Director Corbett?
Aye.
Director Rosario?
Aye.
Director Coffey?
Aye.
Director San Juan?
Yes.
And President Waspy.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, we'll move to acquisition, stewardship, and development. Item number 2, I'm not going to read it. I'll let Sean do that.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Sean Dugan, Trails Program Manager. Today I am presenting an item asking for authorization to execute a on-call trail services agreement with Single Track Trails Incorporated and to ask for an appropriation of Measure WW funds and accept a grant donated by the Philip Schultz Foundation in the amount of $80,000, transfer that from the Regional Parks Foundation into the project account. And I'll go through why we need this and who we have in mind and some of the challenges that we face moving forward here. and a cost analysis of what this may cost us and how this funding can work. So a good problem to have right now. We have a lot of trail projects moving forward right now. So about 15 plus miles in various parks you see here on this map. There's a regional trail project, the Ridge Trail connection from Garin to Vargas Plateau. It's about 5 miles, 3 miles of new construction, 2 miles of road restoration. In Pleasanton Ridge, there are currently, I'm sorry, let me back up. Permits are expected very soon in 2023 for that project. In Pleasanton Ridge, we have permits for those trails there. Tyler Ranch already mostly complete, but we're still working on that. But several other miles, about 9 miles total in Pleasanton Ridge. There's permits that were issued for the 3 trails you see listed in Sibley McCosker. And those have expired, but we're in the process of extending those permits now. And there's old trails that were permitted before in Vargas Plateau that we also need to renew the permits for at some point if we want to construct some more trails in Vargas. And that's not including other trails that we have going, paved trails, the Chenard Trail, and other trails of the Park District and projects that we work on. And so all in all, as I mentioned, we either have permits, soon will, or we have permits that will renew for a lot of trail work. And so I'll go through a couple of the projects that I'm recommending that we hire some outside help to supplement the Park District's work. 2 of those projects are in Pleasanton Ridge. You see on the map here, we have 3 of the permitted trails. We'll focus on the Philip Schultz Trail and the Mariposa Trail in this. The permits were issued in 2020. And as you all know, obtaining permits for an incidental take permit is extremely difficult and challenging and cumbersome to not only secure, but then to administer once we start building the project. The land use plan in Pleasanton Ridge was adopted in 2012, and we received the permits 8 years later. There were many reasons behind that, but my point is that once we have these permits, we want to do the work and complete them under the permit and not have to revisit these discussions with the agencies and extend these. And there's also about a $30,000 cost. So the first trail, we've been waiting a little bit, and I know the Philip Schultz Foundation has been waiting for the Park District to construct the Philip Schultz Trail in northern Pleasanton Ridge. This is about a 2.5 mile trail. It has very steep side slopes, which we've had issues with. And the soil type at the Park District is a very expansive clay type of soil, pretty much throughout the Park District. It's a challenging construction environment within the woods. And this project also includes a lot of switchbacks, as you can see, a lot of turns in this design, which will require some delicate and intricate rock walls. I won't say delicate. No, they're going to be sturdy rock walls and steps, and also potentially some drainage features and crossings that require a significant amount of skill. And so the $80,000 in this proposal here was what the Philip Schultz Foundation had raised and provided the Park District. And we're looking to now put that in a project and implement this project. The portion I will mention, the portion of Pleasanton Ridge that this is within is in the land bank status at the moment. So we have some planning work to do to get this open to the public, but it's time to build it. Then the next trail is Mariposa Trail. This trail is about 1.5 miles, and it also has some features that require some skill to install, such as puncheons in the top left there, turnpikes in the middle, and a small bridge due to some drainage issues and some grazing conflicts out there. The Bay Area Ridge Trail from Garin to Vargas Plateau. This one's a very complicated project within an easement that we condemned over private property. And it has about 5 forward crossings that will require daylighting the creek and restoring the contours of the creek, plantings in the creek and restoration, mitigation for those impacts, as well as a small trail bridge, which is about 2 miles in. So it's a little, it needs to be designed. It's hard to get to. And again, our access is limited. This is typically something that we would hire outside help for. And so we released an RFP to the Professional Trail Builders Association website, and we received 3 responses. We interviewed 2 and determined that Single Track Trails was the most qualified firm for the job. Their experience in trail building in difficult terrain, their ability to follow plans, and their lead operators are registered Professional Trail Builders Association professionals. They operate excavators, skid steers, trail dozers, and and material haulers. And their staff have thousands of hours of expertise, specifically on trails. And their rate that they can complete trail work is about a mile per month or 4 weeks, with 1 site supervisor, 1 crew lead, and 2 to 4 hand crew. And the majority of their work experience, as I mentioned, is within difficult, steep terrain in Colorado and other states. They are a national company. They also have some access to equipment that is necessary to do some fine shaping and grading in order to prevent landslides and failure after the trail's constructed. On the right, you see what some call a knuckle, where the mini excavator is able to pivot and turn and reach the slope to give it the angle of repose that's needed once the trail's built to prevent sliding from happening on both sides. On the left, you see what's one of our Swaco dozers here that has what's called the slope bar, and you can move that to the uphill or downhill side. We seem to have a challenge using this piece of equipment sometimes, and the fact that in order to manipulate and put this piece of equipment onto our dozer, we have to take it to the shop, have the equipment shop do it, and go bring it back to the site. Whereas private companies typically pop that thing off and on as they wish, as they go, as they need it. So let me just check my notes here, make sure I'm keeping up here. So we have some challenges at the Park District with a lot of things. And as you may have noticed, we're paying a lot of attention to trails these days, policies, conflict, and development of new trails. We have been working for years to get a small trails crew implemented or staffed. And we have had staff acting in that capacity over the last few years, and we are now finally getting that off the ground. But in 2020, we did an inventory of our narrower natural surface trails in the Park District, trails that would be maintained by hand or by a small dozer. And they determined that there's about a 5-year maintenance backlog, and that's not including, obviously, the 2022-23 winter, which created even more. As I mentioned, we have 15 miles of trail projects planned in the next 5 years. Those permits expire in 5 years in Pleasanton Ridge, and the other permits that we will receive and extend will also have a 5-year timeline. And when on a yearly basis, we will traditionally reach out to roads and trails and maintenance and skilled trades and work out a way to build new trails at the Park District for the following construction season, schedule an operator and some potential crew. And we have hired outside conservation crews to construct our trails as well, pretty much every year I've been here. And when we do that, we're taking that staff away from the massive backlog of maintenance that we have at the Park District. We also have a very restricted work window where we can construct trails. We have our permit allows us through May through October. But really, the soil conditions, the moisture, and the ability to work with this ability to construct trails is at its greatest between May and the end of July. In August through October, that is the normal period of time. The period of time that we are given our yearly routine maintenance permit through the Trails, Creeks, and Ponds process. And so district staff is completely obligated during that time, and it's very difficult to get staff to come out and actually work on new projects. Not only that, the Roads and Trails crew has about 250 to 300 miles of roads that they need to grade per year. And we have 1,330 miles of trail total that we need to maintain, and we barely get through that. So Again, the limited equipment and operator availability and the logistics and the lack of ease of manipulation of our equipment, and the multi-year commitment that these trails are presenting to us to construct and then to maintain really lead us to needing some outside help to supplement our work. Plenty of work. We'll continue to do all of the activities that the Park District staff normally does and work on other new trails with Parks District staff as we can. This is not full-time work. This is not a long-term solution. This is a supplement to a massive amount of work that we have right now. And additionally, the project management, somebody has to manage these projects, and it's the Trails program that does that. And I have 2 staff. And so they have to be on site at all times. They have to report and have a biomonitor on site and schedule that biomonitor, schedule the personnel coordination coming from other parts of the district, rent the equipment and the sanitation rental coordination for porta potties, et cetera. And then we have monthly and yearly status reports to the regulatory agencies that need to be created. And again, we could use some help. That's all I'll say. And so I'll go through some of the costs of this. So the Philip Schultz Trail, Mariposa Trail, and the Ridge Trail, Garin de Vargas Plateau projects, I'm recommending to hire single track trails to complete those construction projects. These are the proposed costs that they provided for each. And I added a 10% contingency to each one of those projects for a total of $664,000 under a master agreement, which these 3 projects would be tiered off of as they come up. So there's a not to exceed amount of $664,000, and each one of these projects will be tiered off that until we run out of money. I've given the miles and the amount that they're proposing. I estimated or calculated that their work is roughly about $95,000 per mile to build new trails. In comparison, we just completed or are completing, I'll say, the Tyler Ranch Trail was about 1.3 miles. Materials, conservation crews, equipment rentals, and rock and erosion control supplies is about the same amount that they're proposing per mile as at $96,553. That doesn't include the labor that the Park District staff provided. We had about 12 staff total over the 2 years, or 120 working days, which was if you put them all together, it's about 6 months of work. We had about 2 to 3 staff out there per day. And so I ran a calculation. As you know, the salary that you see on the job description is far less than what it costs the district to pay our staff with benefits and retirement and overhead, et cetera. And so I guesstimated about 100,000, which I think is low, and about 261 working days times 3 staff. I'm sorry, 261 working days in a year, 3 staff, and 120 days to build, approximately 138,000 in labor. And that's a really low estimate. So my point is the Park District is we are not cheap, but this if cost is a concern, this is a good comparison, and it shows that we're not necessarily paying more to contract out. And so the money, there is money left in the Pleasanton Ridge 167000 account, and we've spent some of that. Either way, I would be coming before you either in the budget process or mid-year to ask for more money from Measure WW or other sources to get these trails built, whether we were contracting it out or doing it in-house. But I'm proposing to bring in the $80,000 Philip Schultz Foundation donation into this project, and then the remainder to cover the $664,000 coming from Measure WW Pleasanton Ridge Development Funds in the amount of $161,000. And that will all go into this master agreement for a total of $664,000. And so again, here is the wording. So authorization to execute an on-call trail services agreement with Single Track Trails Incorporated to appropriate $161,000 in Measure WW funds and accept the grant of $80,000 from the Regional Parks Foundation account to the Construct Pleasanton Ridge Trails project number 167000. And I'm happy to take any questions at this point.
Thank you, Sean. Any questions, comments, Sean? Member Rosario?
Yeah, just to clarify, so all three trails are included in the one agreement.
That's right.
Okay, and does Single Track have a website where we can take a look and see what the work that they've done in the past?
Yes, they do. I can provide that to you.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate the this project, having been worked at Redwood and trying to maintain 17 miles of single track trail. It's tough, and I understand the workload situation currently, and as long as we're heading towards building our own small trails crew and looking to hopefully expand our roads and trails crew, I don't see why we can't do both of these things as long as they're going concurrently. So I appreciate the work, and then I think I could support this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Member Sanwong?
Yes, thank you for the presentation. And I just want to share, I really glad that we're looking at these trails. I know, the sad story of Philip Schultz is one that a lot of us who live in the Pleasanton Tri-Valley area are familiar with. And I think a lot of the Park District are familiar with, because I believe the family came here to a board meeting at earlier time, but certainly as a 35-year-old man trying to save someone from a train and ended up losing his life while trying to save that person. It's a very sad story. And I know that the family really want to honor his legacy in regards to his love for our parks. And so it's really great to see that we are making an effort to honor that legacy, and also including their generous donation from the foundation. And I also will share, there was another very generous donation made to the Valley Humane Society in Pleasanton, which is the rescue society for animals. And they just opened within the last month, the Philip Schultz Veterinary Surgery Center. So just to give a sense in terms of timing, the other large project that the family had contributed to did open in the past couple of months. So I think that the timing aspect is really important here. And I wanted to share that point. But then the other point I want to share, this is also, within land bank property. And I know that I get a lot of comments that we have so much land bank property and what are we doing with that? And so I think this is a really good effort to show that we're, trying to open up some of this land bank property. So thank you again.
Member Eccles?
Thank you, Sean, for the presentation. Very informative. Yeah, I definitely appreciate the need to move quickly when you finally got those permits. So definitely want to jump in there and get that work done. And as we talked about previously, I just want to again sort of reiterate how important I think it is also to build out our own in-house staff in these areas. Now, there's certain opportunities like this that we don't have time to get the staff to make it happen in time to have to one, open the park for the public, but two, get it done in time for before the permits run out. So this is, I think, an example of when we really, really do need to go for outside work. But I think in terms of long-term strategy, it's also important to look at a second small trails crew, and as well as a second road and trail crew, and the other workforce that I know, having talked to you before about this, you all support it. So
I agree. Yeah.
Anyone else? Hearing none. Thank you very much, Sean. I tend to agree. I think we owe it to the Schultz family to get this thing done. I personally am glad we've got this big amount of work. I'm really glad. And I, like my colleagues, I hope we can have a second trails crew and a second roads and trails crew. But in the meantime, and right now, I'll quote you, it's time to build it. And I hope we can do this. So, okay. Are there any public comments? I see Kelly Abreu has his hand up. Go ahead, Kelly.
Okay. If you go back to 4 years ago, exactly 4 years ago, on the Bay Area Ridge Trail website, it says, the planned bridge trail between Guerin Regional Park and Niles Canyon Road is expected to be completed in 2021. 5 new miles of trail will be constructed along the scenic ridge above Union City and Fremont. That's an exact quote. Here we are, it's 2023, and not very many shovels of dirt have been turned on that trail. So it's not just about money, it's not just about labor, it's about management oversight. These projects come up, and unless you're very lucky and somebody like the Bay Area Ridge Trail puts the project on their website, people forget. You vote to approve these things. You vote to approve Measure WW funding, and it just disappears into a black hole. I'll quote to you the words of Director Ann Wieskamp in 2016, quoting her words written in the newspaper. In 2012, she wrote that the district began an extensive planning process, which included a public meeting, analysis, traffic, parking, geology, archaeological study, and a park user survey sent to 20,000 people. That was for Mission Peak. And at its meeting on September 20th, the District Board of Directors unanimously approved the resulting environmental impact report and plan for expansion of Stanford Avenue parking. The plan calls for construction of 300 new spaces on 11 acres close to the present parking lot. I could go on. She was very clear about that. She even had the total cost there, $6.5 million, and she had the projected completion date is January of 2020. This is the kind of a black hole management that the Park District practices, where entire giant projects with approved EIRs disappear, budgets disappear, trails never get built, trails get delayed. It's before we go out there and send out workers with shovels, we need to have managers with spreadsheets and ledger books, and not erasable ink. It has to be permanent ink. Keep track of what the promises are, what the commitments are, and then deliver them. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Watch us deliver in about a minute and a half here. Any other comments? Questions? Do I have a motion to approve this?
I'll make the motion to approve, please.
Moved by Member Sanwong, seconded by Member Corbett. If there's no further discussion, for coffee.
The motion we just made and seconded is items 1, 2, and 3. The authorization for amount not to exceed the appropriation of grant funding, and 3, the measure WW allocation. All 3 are encompassed in the action you are asking for. Great. Just want to make sure.
There's the wording again if you need it. That's
great.
Thank you.
Clerk, would you take a roll call vote?
Yes, President Waspy. Director Eccles.
Aye.
Director Corbett.
Aye.
Director Rosario.
Aye.
Director Coffey.
Aye.
Director San Juan.
Yes.
And President Waspy.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes unanimously. Next up, the engineer's report.
Good afternoon, Director Waspy, members of the board. I'm Deborah Auker, Assistant General Manager of Finance and Management Services and the Chief Financial Officer for the Park District. Today, we're here before you for a revenue authorization. This is an annual process that we follow for our assessment districts. Today, we're talking about what we call the 2 County Trails Assessment District that covers portions of Alameda and Contra Costa County. This is the 3rd step in a 3-step annual process that you've gone through. Today's actions, we're going to hold a public hearing and receive any comments regarding the engineer's report for this lighting and landscaping district. And then we're asking the board to adopt a resolution. This is the state's language confirming the diagram and assessment set forth in the engineer's report that is put forward in your board packet, ordering the maintenance and improvements and the tax levy of the assessments. So that's what our requested action is. And I'll just walk you through a little bit about what this assessment district does and how it became. So it was established in 1993. The Park District had a robust regional trails program then and noted that there was the need for more funding for maintenance. Also, we were passing Measure AA, the capital bond program, which was also going to develop new trails. And so we put forward this assessment district to provide funding for maintenance. It was originally $5.44 per single family parcel, and that has remained unchanged. We did in 1995 add a component for multi-unit fee, which was less than that original amount. That was added in 1995. And then also due to Proposition 218, even though this was deemed to be grandfathered in, we went back to the voters with Measure KK in 1996 and got over 78% of the voters to agree to continue this special assessment. So the assessment, as I mentioned, covers 2 counties, except for Murray Township in eastern Alameda County, and in East Contra Costa County, the Union Liberty High School District area are exempt from the assessments, as well as public utilities. Church properties are also exempt. And there is language for a senior discount in the ordinance. So what do we do with these funds here? They are available to maintain, improve, and service parklands and trails. We use them for staffing, for maintenance, and we also use them for weed abatement and vegetation and fuels management. We have over almost 35 full-time equivalent staff budgeted to these funds annually, made up of our Roads and Cruise Trail in Alameda and Contra Costa County. So here's a boundary map of the assessment district. You can see those eastern portions are not included for some because it wasn't annexed. And then also in East Contra Costa County, we have a separate assessment district there. But these do cover the majority of the regional trails in the Park District. We're talking a lot about trails today. So here's just a listing of the regional trails here at the Park District. We also, can use this for general maintenance in our parklands, but here is a listing of the regional trails in that boundary. Also, before you, besides the full assessment district, we also have what we call zones of benefit. And these are smaller zones that are formed basically to mitigate housing developments where developers have dedicated lands or trails to the Park District. And it was to create a funding mechanism so that we could accept that dedication and then receive some funds to maintain those dedicated lands. They're kind of an offshoot of the Lighting and Landscaping District. And then they have a small inflationary adjustment annually, whereas the main assessment district does not. So here's a map that show where these 6 zones of benefit are. And again, they're really related to where we have had dedications of land due to development and taken on parklands. So 3 of these are in Alameda County and 3 of them are in Contra Costa County. And they have an annual special assessment as well. And in your report, it lists out many of the details of these zones of benefit, but they do range, there's depending on how many units were built, it ranges in the number of parcels that are included in each zone. And the annual assessments range from $40.70 to $211. Depending on which zone it is and what the needed funding was for that maintenance in that area. So those are the 6 zones of benefit. So now I'll just go over a little bit about the process that you've gone through this year. I know every year you recall, didn't I already see this before? And it's because we do bring it to you 3 times. So in April, we do develop budgets for these different assessment districts and zone of benefit. And then in April, it was April 18th that you adopted a resolution that initiated the proceedings for this tax levy. and ordered the preparation of the engineer's report. We've been using NBS to be our engineer of record, and we do have a representative of NBS with us today, Charmaine. If you have any really hard questions for me, she'll be able to answer them. And then in May, we came back to you for the second step, which was approving the draft engineer's report and adopting the resolution of intention. We published the public notice announcing the public hearing. And then today you're here in June to conduct the public hearing and order the levy. After this is approved, and today we also will make note of whether there were any protests. That is part of the option in the law. And I don't believe we have any, but we'll check with the clerk at that time. And then we will send the levy to the county assessors, collect these special assessments for us and forward the funds to us. So on the revenue and expenditure side, what are we talking about? So overall, we get about $4.7 million in total revenue for this, which really does help. And then the expenditures, not only are they funding those almost 35 FTEs, we have appropriated a total of 5.2 million, which is using some of the fund balance that was remaining from prior years in this budget. So we have all of that. Included in that budget is some work at Walpert Ridge, where we're implementing some grazing infrastructure and invasive species management. Also, the Five Canyons Zone of Benefit has some accumulated funding that will be doing some special maintenance out there. So, so with that, our actions today are to determine if there's any public comments, confirm with the clerk that there have been no protests filed with the district. In the past, we had always adopted 2 resolutions no matter what, but we've learned recently that unless there have been any protests, we don't have to adopt that second resolution. So that's a little bit different than in the past. And that is all I have for you today. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Deborah. Any questions, comments? Member Rosario.
Thank you for the report. I forgot to ask this in finance. It comes to mind because in my neighborhood, ADUs are going up like crazy. So are ADUs that are being currently built, are those included in the zones of benefits or any of these?
I don't believe ADUs are included unless there is a separate APN listed for those. If they are just an additional unit on a parcel, it's my understanding that there's no additional. I'd have to check with NBS to see if there's any multi-unit charged for ADUs. I don't think it's part of our original ordinance.
Yeah.
I know as we form new community facilities districts, there is an option to determine which fee would be appropriate for an ADU.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I mean, they're going up.
And Charmaine, if you need to correct me in any way on that, please do.
Any other questions, comments? I would just like to add that I think this is great. I want to compliment NBS for all the great work they do and have been doing for us for years. They do an excellent report if you read through it, and how we use the money and how we really effectively use it. We branched out into fire suppression and fire mitigation. I spoke with Tim Seifert. Tim, I don't know what his role is, but he's very intelligent, very smart, and our representative, and usually is here. Charmaine, thanks for being here also. But I talked to Tim at the Carpet Conference for a long, long time, and he was telling me about an opportunity along with lighting and landscaping districts and all these types of districts we have. There's now a climate resilient district, the ability to deal with the climate crises, and there's funding and financing for climate mitigation, adaptation, and resilience. And he's more than willing to talk to us about that. And it might be right up our line, not for this period right now, but it maybe in the future. So thank you, Charmaine, and tell Tim thanks. Tell him we appreciate that.
Thank you, Director Waspie. We work very closely with Tim. I believe he's on vacation right now, maybe in Alaska. Otherwise, he would have been here. I think he'll be at our next meeting.
Great.
I'll let him know. Thank you.
All right, so if there's no further questions from boards or public members, I will now open up the public hearing. And is there anyone from the public that would like to comment on this or protest this action that we're about to take?
Nope.
Seeing none and looking on the Zoom screen, seeing none. Then we will close the public hearing. And now we have the opportunity to work on two resolutions. The first is the approval of the engineer's report and moving this forward. Do I have a motion to approve that? Moved by member Corbett, seconded by member Rosario. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Yes, President Waspy. Director Eccles?
Aye.
Director Corbett?
Aye.
Director Rosario?
Aye.
Director Coffey?
Aye.
Director San Juan?
Yes.
And President Waspy.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. And our
President
second
Waspy.
resolution is to,
And Director Waspy, I believe if the clerk can confirm, we have had no protests
Right.
filed. Therefore, we don't have to approve that second resolution.
Excellent.
we completed our assignment then. Right along it. Under general manager's comments.
Thank you, President Waspy. We don't have a staff presentation today, but I thought I'd have Lisa Gorgon give us a quick update on Memorial Day weekend per your request, just a verbal update. And I did want, while she's coming up there, just announce to both the board and members of the public, we do have our annual Juneteenth celebration coming up this month. And it actually falls on a Monday. So since it's a free day in the park, I actually made the decision last month that we're actually going to celebrate that on Sunday. So that since it's a bit, much more, we have a lot more visitors that come on Sunday. So actually it will be celebrated in the parks on Sunday. We do have some programming also on Monday, but just wanted people to know that that is a free day in the park and you can access all sorts of other activities related to that on our website. And I just realized it also, I believe, is Father's Day that day. So will be a very happy day out there. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Lisa.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon. Directors, President Waspy. My name is Lisa Gorgon. I'm the Assistant General Manager of Operations to give you a brief update on our Memorial Day weekend holiday and what it looked like in the parks. So it was cool and a little cloudy on Saturday and Sunday, so it wasn't too busy. It did warm up on Sunday. And so what that meant was, and I just, this is breaking news, I just got this from staff. We had a total of about 263,000 people that weekend, and that averaged about 87,000 a day. Yeah, so still pretty, not too shabby. And it was the first weekend that Anthony Chabot Campground was open. So that was exciting, and the camp was fully occupied. Was also the beginning of 7-day swim season. So that was also exciting. And just overall, we've had so much rain. There's just still a lot of mowing, trail mowing, cleanup from the storm that's happening. Staff did respond to one safety incident, but over the weekend, but generally it was pretty smooth. So I think that covers it. If you have any questions.
Any questions, comments? Well, we did have a drowning in the park district.
That's right. Yeah. At
any
Del
update on that? I
Valle.
mean,
Del Valle. Yeah,
but it was in the unguarded area.
it was. And staff responded. So park operations staff and public safety. And then I think other responders came as well. So first responders.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we'll move now to the board committee reports, or pardon me. General counsel, do we have anything to report?
Thank you, President Waspy. No, nothing to report from closed session.
Great, thank you. Move to board committee reports. We have the board committee, Park Advisory Committee report of February 27th. The Park Advisory Committee meeting of March committee meeting of May 17th, and the Finance Committee meeting of April 26th. Any comments, questions on that?
All going well.
Hearing none, and pardon me, we have nothing from closed session. We'll move to board comments, and I will go in the reverse order I did this morning. Member Sanwong.
Okay. It's always every 2 weeks in between meetings, it seems to get more and more, we seem to have more and more activities. So I'll try to do this from memory. I think I got it. Since the last meeting, so the City of San Ramon had a wonderful celebration for the groundbreaking for their Iron Horse Trail Bridge over Bollinger Canyon. And I attended. I know my close friend who was previously on the San Ramon City Council, Sabina Safar, was a big champion for that project, along with other members of the city council and the current mayor. So I'm really glad that I was able to attend that on behalf of the Park District. I guess it's a busy time. I think most of you were in Yosemite for the CARPED conference and other activities. And then that Saturday after, there was a community swearing in for my good friend, Elisa Marquez, who is our new supervisor for Alameda County. And so I also attended that at Newark City Hall. And that was a really great opportunity to celebrate a good friend now being on the board of supervisors, as well as meet some of the Newark City Council, as well as the staff. And I got to have some good conversations about our park district and just how we can continue to work together. And so that was also nice. And then soon after that, I left for Washington, D.C. for our federal advocacy conference. And that was a real whirlwind of activity. We really had some amazing conversations, and I imagine we'll probably have it on the agenda to look at this a little bit more in depth. But at a top level, I'll say there's a lot of enthusiasm when we were at our meetings, and I think that we have a lot of promise in terms of some of the priority projects that we were presenting, which included talking with the National Park Service about Thurgood Marshall, home of the Port Chicago 50. There's a lot of enthusiasm for that project, and from the National Park Service themselves. We also had a really promising conversation with the National Park Service in regards to the Judge John Sutter land in Oakland, and the idea of bifurcation in terms of separating out the 14 acres of land from the 6 acres of the water sediment property. So I think that there's more to come from these meetings. After that, what's happened since then? There's been so many other activities. I guess going back to Memorial Day, I just happened to pass by Shadow Cliffs, and I noticed that there were a lot of people at Shadow Cliffs on Memorial Day. So I decided to drive in and stop by, and it was really nice to walk around. There's a large church group at Shadow Cliffs, and then there's a lot of other people that kept on coming in. There was actually, as I was leaving, there was a line of people that wanted to come and spend Memorial Day at the park, barbecuing, picnicking, and walking around. And that made me feel really excited, because I know we had a huge effort in the month of May to pump water to fill Shadow Cliffs Lake. And the feedback I'm hearing from so many people in regards to Shadow Cliffs is how nice it looks now, and people are really excited. And I think that the Memorial Day activity that I witnessed is just a testament to that degree of excitement. And I'm sure there's other things. I don't have my calendar in front of me, but I think that we have a lot of really good things going on in the Park District. Thanks.
Thank you. Member Eccles.
Hi. Let's see. On the 17th of May, I attended the Natural Cultural Resources Committee. On the 28th of May, I attended the Celebration of Life for Mal Bernstein, who's a longtime civil rights advocate and a good friend and mentor of mine. On the 30th, met with the general manager and staff regarding Jewel Lake. On the 4th of June, just this past Sunday, I really want to give a huge shout out to our staff at the nature area. They did this Pride kickoff, which was really just amazing. They had a whole bunch of really fun events. My daughter and I went. They even had a hike with goats to Jewel Lake. So it was, and then yesterday I had the pre-board meeting for today's meeting.
Thank you. Member Coffee.
Sorry, just note to self, I have to make the hike with goats next time.
Bring your own.
I lost my own. So yeah, coyotes. 17th, yeah, I was traveling to Tenaya and was listening to Natural Resources until it got cut off on YouTube, but I guess we'll get a chance to redo that one. So I actually ended up not missing it. On the 17th to 19th, I attended, as Director San Juan mentioned, the CARPID, California Association Rec and Park District Conference at Tenaya Lodge Yosemite. It was a wonderful conference and very good sessions and networking involved. I was especially proud of the annual CARPID Awards, where Amelia Marshall was recognized as outstanding volunteer among all the park and rec districts in the state. And Amelia was there with her husband to accept the award. And the park district was awarded the outstanding singular event for the year, as recognized by CARPID, in acknowledging our UN Day, I believe the UN Day, and its celebration of the park district successfully receiving the recognition from the United Nations Association of our ability to comply with the 16 sustainability principles of the United Nations Association. Director Rosario, I think we circulated the CARPID Award pamphlet and we all got to sign it for Amelia when we were up in Yosemite, and I meant to bring it today because I think it'd be also appropriate for all of us to sign the outstanding organizational award for the UN Day, the Recognition United Nations Association, and I really want to fill out that page and get it signed and give it to Monaco, who orchestrated and organized that whole effort. And I'll try, I had it on my desk and forgot to bring it. The Washington, DC trip, as Director San Juan mentioned, was terrific, very successful. I think we met with at least 3 or 4 members of our congressional delegation. We met with FEMA, we met with White House Council on Environmental Quality. We met with the National Park Service, which was a particularly encouraging meeting, especially in contrast with past meetings. So I wanted to, just celebrate the success of that trip, and 2, thank all the staff who put in hours and hours and hours of work on that. I know what goes behind to make such an outing for all of us for many days successful. Eric, Lisa, Yuli, and Peter Umhofer, and of course, Ana Alvarez for shepherding us around successfully, which is no small task, like herding cats as we're all running around DC. Thank you, Ana. I attended the Black Birders outing at Big Break on the 29th. The monthly meeting of the Marsh Creek Watershed Council, which is getting itself organized and about to get going, and perhaps is close to being recognized and institutionalized as a watershed council of Contra Costa by the Board of Supervisors. So that should be coming up in the near future. On the 31st, I attended a celebration of the Diablo hiking group, an event put on by Save Mount Diablo that my wife is active in this year. On June 2nd, I had my meeting with the general manager, which also was exciting and some really good news for Ward 7 that I appreciate. The meeting on June 3rd, again out at Big Break with the walk and talk for Congressman DeSaulnier. was very well attended. 50, 70 some odd people were there. And the congressman very much enjoyed the hike led by naturalist Wyatt Moore. On the 4th, that was, I guess, Sunday, which is why I missed the hike with the goats. Mila and I spent the entire day manning, staffing the Park District ambassador table at the Hercules Cultural Festival, which has become a regional event. There were a couple thousand people that attended this. My little hometown, celebrating the diversity of the region, has managed to create a very well-attended and enjoyed regional event, the annual cultural festival. We had at least a couple hundred people come by our Park District table to talk about the parks. The 5th, with Yolanda and Yuli, I attended the Contra Costa Bar Association's exoneration task force, with a lot happening on that front as well. That covers a really busy month for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Colin.
Thank you very much. Several of the events that I'm going to talk about, we've already talked about, but I will mention them again. It was wonderful to spend time with the Recreation and Park District Conference in Yosemite with my colleagues. One of the most important items that happened there was we had an outdoor event where we just basically looked closely at the land that we were sitting on and standing on, and sharing with everyone every little item that was there, a piece of the land, place where plants are coming up from the bottom of the ground, insects, birds that were flying over. We were really taking a look at every single little bit of the land and how it is important to protect and understand. And that was really a great part of the conference. And then, so I was at Yosemite with my colleagues. And then the next week, we went to Washington, D.C., where we had an opportunity to meet so many members of of the Congress that do so many great things for us. I had the opportunity to meet with them. I especially enjoyed meeting with Congressman Barbara Lee from this area, and she's always there to meet with us and let us know what we would like her to do on our behalf. And she's just really excellent at that. But all of it was a great opportunity to meet with the members of Congress and the various departments. After returning from DC, there was a finance committee on the 31st. And then moving into June, on the 2nd of June, the San Francisco Bay Restoration Authority had a meeting in one of our parks, brought their staff and people interested in the shoreline area. And that was really a great opportunity to show off one of our parks to them. And then on the 3rd, this is an annual event, always very important to me, being from San Leandro. It was the Cherry Festival and the Cherry Festival Parade. And we were able to show off one of our pieces of equipment driving through the parade. And that was fun. On the 4th, I also attended the LGBTQ event that was happening in the barbecue along with Elizabeth up in the park. And that was really wonderful. On Monday, the 5th, I had lunch with our general manager, Sabrina Landreth, and catching up on everything we're doing. And that's it. But I do want to mention that coming up on the 10th, on the Saturday, the 10th, the Alameda Shoreline, the Sandcastle contest is happening. So you're all invited to come to that, but that's coming up on the 10th. So thank you. That's what I had to keep busy.
Yeah. D.
Thank you. So it's the 17th, 19th, I attended the Carpet Conference. One of the big things I took away from that conference, as was really impressed with the ecotherapy that Director Corbett described. And then also during the review of the law session, I was just not impressed, but shocked by how many agencies have been ransom hacked. It's a huge number, and in our recent finance committee meeting, found out that our insurance for that doesn't cover the ransom if you have to pay the ransom. So it's really on the rise, and I'm really glad that our information technology folks are on it. It can't impress people enough to really pay attention to your emails, because that seems how these folks are getting in. So, and then on the 20th, in between, I attended the 442's annual memorial event at Roberts Park. This is the all Japanese unit that deployed in between 1944 and 1946. They earned over 14,000 awards, and 4,000 of those awards were Purple Hearts, and they had a huge number of Medal of Honors, but the price was very high for the sacrifice that they paid while their families were in detention. So I'm really so happy to participate in this event. It's great that the Park District has been part of it since 1992. And the families there are so appreciative. And there's a rock memorial and also a tree. And then this is something they gave me as, I'll pass that around. So really happy to be part of that program and to acknowledge those sacrifices. And then on the 21st to 26th, attended our federal advocacy. I think the biggest takeaway for me there was just meeting with the agencies, FEMA and National Parks, but also watching our Gold Star Director Coffee here interacting with Congressman Garamendi. I thought that was so awesome. So I aspire to be that well versed. And then on return, attended the finance committee on the 31st, and then on the 1st, attended my one-on-one with Sabrina. I got to introduce her to the Lake Merritt. What is that? Oh, there's a mosaic we have with the sister city of Fukuoka, City of Oakland, which we participated in and showed her our participation in that's included in the mosaic. It's beautiful. And then also showed her the Children's Memorial at Lake Merritt, and hopefully I can address that soon, bring that up to date. And then on the 1st and the 2nd, I attended the Black Birders event at Lake Temescal and Point Pinole, both very well attended. And I just want to say hats off to our naturalist. Each event was personal, and there was not a canned speech in any one of those. It really came from the heart from each of the naturalists that spoke and led those. And so I just want to congratulate the naturalists, Melissa Folks and Alicia Walker. So very good job. And then on the 4th, I hiked Brioni's Pilot Project with Jim Hansen and Judy Schwartz from the CNPS. Very eye-opening. I'll be sending those comments to you guys. There's some obvious need there. And then today. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. So I also attended the Carpet Conference, and I came away with a lot of things. The forest bathing session, like everybody has said, was really an amazing session. More amazing in that I'd been to it before, and this was a group of Chico State students mostly that got together as a response to the whole town of Paradise burning to the ground and having a bunch of people walking around like zombies for a couple of years, just not knowing what was going on, and sort of reintroducing them back to nature and doing things like that. So that was where it started and originated. The general manager of Paradise Park and Recreation District, Dan Esseff, really got into this, took the training. He trains people up there, and they're really taking advantage of this interesting concept of dealing and communing with nature. It was great that we won the awards we won. You know, the UN Day of Peace and the Peace Poll was, people thought that was so innovative, and that's why we won for the Innovative Award. It was great. People talked to me about it later and talked about how they could do it. Amelia Marshall was wonderful, gregarious, and very, very happy. And her husband, Jim, was Bill, excuse me, and her boyfriend, Bill. No, it was great, a good event. So the plaques that we were all discussing, if we can, on the July 5th meeting, I invited Amelia to come. We'll present her the plaque, and also Mona and staff, and we'll take a few pictures and sign things like you said. So if we can do that at the July 5th meeting, that would be wonderful. I also, then I fell into a deep hole for the last couple of weeks. Yesterday, I attended the pre-board meeting, and this morning I hiked at Redwood Canyon Golf Course. Frank Millen's right. Boy, that place, those guys really, really brought it back really, really quick. And it's beautiful and it's playable, and they're back in business now. And in fact, having a big event there. I don't know how it's going to work out. They've done it before, but they're going to have a band there and serve dinner on the driving range, and everybody comes out, has a little picnic out there. So they're back up. They're resilient. I would also direct your attention to the news articles that we always have in the back of our deals here. Stanley Ward, if you don't know Stanley Ward, the farmer at the little farm, just the greatest guy in the world. Great stories. He started off, I was a carpenter with him 100 years ago in the Park District, and then he promoted up to being the farmer at the little farm, and just found his niche and does a great job. If you haven't met him, talk to him. He'll probably give you some eggs. I got a lot of eggs there. And just as the last thing, I was wondering if anybody has heard an update on the goats. There's lots of news about the goats and AB5, and how someone has suggested that the shepherds will need to be paid at the rate of, according to the people that run the show, putting them out of business. But I hope it doesn't affect us, and I hope we can do something to advocate or keep that great program. Well, that'd be nice. Yeah, so if there's nothing else for the good of the order, we are adjourned. Thank you all.